Number 1. Facilitate.
It means to make a task or process easier to do or achieve. For example, as an English tutor, I will facilitate your learning journey.
I guess I want to help facilitate that and help give them a voice.
Now, we need to really facilitate things a bit more.
Colonel, I'm sorry, but we cannot facilitate an evacuation for you or your men.
Number 2. Compile.
It means to gather or collect information from different sources into one place. For example, he compiled a list of frequently asked questions for the website.
But it'll take at least a few days to compile and correlate all the data.
You know, why don't you compile a list of dead or missing kids?
Your report.
Yes, it's our custom to compile descriptions of the various places and people we encounter throughout the galaxy.
Number 3. Deprive.
It means to take something away from someone, usually something they need or want. For example, the storm deprived the village of electricity for days.
And since you deprived me of my escort, I demand a horse as well.
You would deprive us of your talents at this time.
I've deprived your ship of power, and when I swing around, I mean to deprive you of your life.
Number 4. Resolve.
It means to find an acceptable solution to a problem or difficulty. For example, they resolved the conflict through a long discussion.
I'm willing to be the one to resolve it.
I failed to resolve the situation.
This paper resolved my suspicion into certainty.
Number 5. Perceive.
It means to understand or become aware of something through your senses. For example, the teacher perceived the student's confusion and helped.
Mr. Fielding, we are all part of a pattern we cannot perceive.
And he totally failed to perceive anything else.
Say I will bear myself proudly if I perceive the love come from her.
Number 6. Initiate.
It means to start or begin something, especially a process or action. For example, he initiated the discussion by asking a question.
And, do you want me to initiate the memory wipe, Captain?
Initiate. 1. We'd like to ask you a few basic questions before the operating system is initiated.
Number 7. Elusive.
It means something that is difficult to find, catch, or understand. For example, the solution to the problem was elusive. No one could figure it out.
Truth is elusive to those who refuse to see with both eyes.
I don't want to be art. I could be elusive or deceptive or something.
Most people probably go their whole life alone, waiting for that elusive true love.
Number 8. Validate.
It means to confirm that something is accurate, true, or acceptable. For example, she needed to validate her identity before accessing the account.
We scan for heat signatures, but we can't validate if it's a man or a woman up there.
But keep your ink clean so they can't validate you.
So that we don't prematurely release information that's not validated.
Number 9. Attain.
It means to achieve or reach something, especially after working hard for it. For example, he attained his dream job after years of effort.
Try to attain the highest average possible.
He began to have a dim feeling that to attain his place in the world, he must be himself and not another.
It's a blessing to see my darling boy has attained a position I always knew was his due.
Number 10. Persuade.
It means to convince someone to do or believe something through reasons or argument. For example, the little boy persuaded his parents to get him a puppy.
We must persuade Henry to marry Mariah.
It only persuaded the government of the need for his program.
So what do you plan to say to persuade him?
Number 11. Lucrative.
It means something that makes a lot of money or is highly profitable. For example, e-commerce can be a lucrative business if done wisely.
The point of this conversation is I'd like to offer you a lucrative proposition.
Okay, it is a lucrative business opportunity for both.
Answering hate mail is not the most lucrative job in the world, but let's face it.
Number 12. Fluctuate.
It means to change or move frequently, especially up and down. For example, stock prices fluctuate daily, sometimes going up, other times down.
The markets will fluctuate for a while.
Blood sugar levels can fluctuate, make it difficult to diagnose.
Weight can fluctuate from year to year.
Number 13. Inevitable.
It means something that is certain to happen and cannot be stopped or avoided. For example, aging is an inevitable process for all living things.
Look, the arrival of strong artificial intelligence has been inevitable for decades.
When the forest grows too wild, a purging fire is inevitable and natural.
In that inevitable moment when your phone finally rings and I say those 3 magic words.
Number 14. Depict.
It means to show or describe something through words, pictures, or art. For example, the painting depicts the life of wild animals.
Family photos depict smiling faces.
I have reason to believe that the Vince Foster tragedy was not depicted accurately.
There's drawings that might depict a mythology about the gods that existed inside the mounds.
Number 15. Diminish.
It means to gradually reduce the strength or intensity of something. For example, regular exercise can diminish the risk of heart disease over time.
You know, just because it didn't take, it doesn't diminish the thought that was behind it.
Lower temperatures would diminish the flexibility.
Your level of functionality will continue to diminish even with the additional surgery.
Number 16. Legitimate.
It refers to something that is allowed by law or is acceptable. For example, the company is legitimate because it follows all legal guidelines.
And I'm trying to make it as a legitimate headhunter, which pays about 10% of what I made before.
What's my legitimate small business?
And if they're not legitimate court documents, you are in for one hell of a fine.
Number 17. Inhibit.
It means to stop something from happening or to slow it down. For example, the cold weather can inhibit the growth of plants.
Trying to inhibit your ability to turn his failure into a successful business.
Antidepressants would inhibit his autonomic nervous system, which would only speed up the heart attacks.
Take slow, deep breaths to inhibit your body's stress response.
Number 18. Absurd.
It means something that is wildly illogical or unreasonable. For example, it seemed absurd to leave without an umbrella in the storm.
That he'd spent 4 years fulfilling the absurd and tedious duty of graduating from college.
It's an absurd idea from the outset. And if your mother found out, she'd have my head.
Don't be absurd. Being a gentleman has nothing to do with one's accent.
Number 19. Skeptical.
It means to doubt or not believe something is true or correct. For example, the scientist was skeptical of the results, wanting more tests.
I gotta admit, I was a little bit skeptical going in.
I'm pretty skeptical, but maybe if someone fun asked me, I would go.
So, from the beginning, I was very skeptical that anyone in our squad was behind the prank.
Number 20. Trivial.
It refers to something that is not important or has little value. For example, the mistake was trivial and didn't affect the overall outcome of the project.
Trivial means unimportant.
Seems like a lot of trouble for something so trivial.
Congrats. Because of your crazy obsession with this cat, you've solved a completely trivial mystery.
Number 21. Contemplate.
It means to think deeply and carefully about something, often for a long time. For example, he took a long walk to contemplate his future plans.
Well, why don't you contemplate asking someone to help you?
I'm contemplating leaving my wife for another woman.
You think the animal is contemplating its own existence?
Number 22. Ubiquitous.
It means something that is found everywhere or is very common. For example, smartphones are ubiquitous in today's society.
Football's ubiquitous in Texas.
Appears to be ubiquitous.
Well, that may be, but I don't like ubiquitous creep. I don't like...
Number 23. Chronic.
It means an illness or problem that continues for a long time and is hard to cure. For example, his chronic back pain makes it difficult to sit for long periods.
Do you have some sort of chronic illness?
This is our general therapy area where we treat patients with chronic pain and acute injury.
Chronic dissatisfaction. That's what you have.
Number 24. Ephemeral.
It refers to something that lasts for a very short time. For example, the bubble in the air was ephemeral, lasting only a few seconds.
Even those who are opposed to giving women the vote must now admit that the movement is no ephemeral thing. The evening...
Tempered by the ephemeral use of color.
Well, right now I'd have to say power is ephemeral.
Number 25. Exclusively.
It refers to something focused entirely on one thing and not shared with others. For example, she reads exclusively romance novels in her free time.
But I have to say, I was hoping you didn't call exclusively for business.
The Cetacean Institute is the only museum in the world exclusively devoted to whales.
The Abbey dealt almost exclusively with American customers.
Number 26. Obsolete.
It means something that is no longer used because something better has replaced it. For example, dial phones became obsolete with the arrival of smartphones.
They created an app that was obsolete before it even launched.
Of course, by that time in the future, ties will be obsolete and we'll all be wearing silver jumpsuits.
I certainly cannot tell you that Russia quietly sold an obsolete technical satellite to a certain telecom in Mumbai.
Number 27. Eradicate.
It means to completely remove or destroy something, especially something bad. For example, scientists are working to eradicate COVID-19 in the near future.
If I can repurpose what she did, I could change the locust DNA, eradicating them in a single generation.
That weapon was designed to save lives and to eradicate collateral damage for our agents.
15 years since the nuclear explosion in Los Angeles launched the West into a war to eradicate AI.
Number 28. Convoluted.
It refers to something very complicated and hard to understand or follow. For example, the story was so convoluted that I did not understand a single thing.
It was convoluted and buried in the fine print, and something Louis Litt never would have missed.
That was really sweet, you guys, in an extremely convoluted way.
Anyway, it's convoluted and not very interesting.
Number 29. Oblivious.
It means not aware of something, especially what is happening around you or nearby. For example, she was oblivious to the fact that she was taking the wrong route.
Teddy is oblivious to other people, especially when he's listening to music.
All these people are just happy and smiling, and they are completely oblivious to the fact that they were almost vaporized.
I mean, you're off in Rachel land doing your Rachel thing, totally oblivious to people's...
Number 30. Conundrum.
It means a problem or question that is difficult or impossible to solve. For example, choosing between two equally good job offers was a real conundrum.
But isn't the real conundrum, can you get a human to love them back?
Look, this is a conundrum, a real conundrum.
This conundrum is burning a hole in my brain.
Number 31. Elaborate.
It means to explain or describe something more clearly by adding details. For example, he elaborated his ideas in great detail during the presentation.
Mr. Goodson, can you elaborate on that a bit?
White House spokeswoman Carrie Nance elaborated on the program.
Can you elaborate on the techniques you'll be employing?
Number 32. Affluent.
It means someone or something that has a lot of money or wealth. For example, the affluent businessman donated millions to charity.
You started your career siphoning money from your affluent parents' bank accounts.
You're an affluent businessman.
You're from Connecticut, one of the most affluent, comfortable, safe places in the world.
Number 33. Invincible.
It means someone or something that's impossible to defeat or destroy. For example, the army seemed invincible because of their leader.
Because of her, they all think they're invincible.
Look, before this gets really stupid for you, you should know that I'm basically invincible.
Now we're an invincible team.
Number 34. Subsequent.
It refers to something that happens or comes after something else. For example, when one domino falls, the subsequent ones fall too.
I also know subsequent attempts to make the AI obedient only made it harder to control.
You need to focus on preventing any subsequent attacks.
But as subsequent events have demonstrated, she was correct.
Number 35. Optimal.
It refers to the best or most excellent option in a specific situation. For example, this route is optimal for avoiding traffic during rush hour.
That mean this is the optimal moment, in my opinion.
Look, all-out destruction is rarely the most optimal strategy.
I know this is not the optimal time to be saying this, but emotions are flying high.
Number 36. Obfuscate.
It means to make something unclear or difficult to understand, often intentionally. For example, the oil companies tried to obfuscate the benefits of wind energy.
The truth is surprisingly easy to obfuscate.
We can create a structure to obfuscate the source.
Looks like obfuscated code to conceal its true purpose.
Number 37. Immortal.
Someone or something that is immortal will live or last forever. For example, the vampire said he was immortal and could live forever.
You're beginning to think you're immortal.
You're not immortal anymore.
The devil was supposed to be immortal.
Number 38. Contemporary.
It means modern or something that relates to the present time. For example, the museum shows contemporary art from around the world.
Now, for our final and deciding round, the category is contemporary culture.
The last chapter is contemporary art, which is very exciting.
I'd like to introduce Jess Woods, the most exciting voice in our contemporary arts community.
Number 39. Accumulate.
It means to collect or gather something gradually over time. For example, over the years she accumulated books on every topic imaginable.
I think you should stay here for a while, accumulate some money, and then find a place of your own and move on with your life.
And I think it would be interesting to see just how much honey we could accumulate before winter.
But listen, all I would say is there is a time to accumulate capital and there is a time to spend it.
Number 40. Subside.
It means to become weaker or less intense over time. For example, the pain in his shoulder started to subside after taking the medicine.
Fear will subside.
Or the pain will subside after a few days. In the meantime, don't forget to take your antibiotics and drink plenty of fluids.
The pain will subside as soon as the Prometheum finishes replacing the damaged tissue.
Number 41. Jeopardize.
It means to put something or someone in danger or at risk. For example, one wrong step on the tightrope can jeopardize her life.
It would jeopardize the future of our investment.
You just jeopardized this whole operation.
My choice of giving you choice will jeopardize the business.
Number 42. Invigorating.
It means something that makes you feel strong, healthy, and full of energy. For example, standing at the mountain peak at sunrise felt invigorating.
There's a certain energy and pace to it that can be invigorating.
And if you've never been from a hot tub to a cold plunge, let me tell you, it is very invigorating.
Thank you to Professor Primbottom and his invigorating lecture on how to just say nay.
Number 43. Consent.
This means to agree to something or give permission for it to happen. For example, the children must have their parents' consent for the trip.
See, today we're going to learn about a real important word, and that word is consent.
If you would consent to be there for her, your fame will grow greater.
My name is Major Mary Killian, and I do not consent to the deletion of this data.
Number 44. Emerge.
It means to appear from somewhere, especially after being hidden or unknown. For example, she watched as the sun began to emerge from behind the clouds.
The Black Knights will emerge victorious once again.
He says you're a warrior and that there is a chance that you will emerge from this challenge.
He emerged from the woods with a dead elk slung across his shoulder.
Number 45. Ambiguous.
This means something that can have more than one meaning or is unclear. For example, the map was ambiguous and we couldn't find the right path.
Ghost is a very ambiguous term.
You really feel it, and it's intentionally ambiguous because, you know, they're tripping.
Just kind of let me know how ambiguous everything was.
Number 46. Circumvent.
It means to avoid a problem or obstacle in a smart or creative way. For example, the team circumvented the challenge with a clever plan.
You've circumvented the law by creating a machine that thinks it's a man, but that's illegal.
No.
So that you circumvent the automated security checks.
Then our front door team will circumvent the fingerprint and facial recognition systems.
Number 47. Conquest.
It means to take control of a place or situation, often through force or effort. For example, the athlete celebrated his conquest of the championship.
Kneel before me and rise into the ranks of my great conquest.
Don't you see how constantly talking about your conquest makes me feel like I'm just another number to you?
He won't allow anything to interfere with his conquest.
Number 48. Betray.
It means to be disloyal or unfaithful to someone, often by deceiving them. For example, Jon Snow felt betrayed by his family when they turned against him.
Well, don't betray her when she's not even here to defend herself.
Our father betrayed a whole generation of people.
And he was betrayed by his own men, stabbed in the back by cowards.
Number 49. Plausible.
It means something that seems true or is believable. For example, the scientist's idea sounded plausible, so nobody questioned him.
I mean, I know you're lying, but I still find you very plausible and appealing.
It's up to you to develop a counter scenario that is plausible.
I'm not saying it's not plausible.
Number 50. Profound.
It describes something that is very deep and meaningful. For example, Paulo Coelho has a lot of profound quotes in his books.
I'm writing my vows to Robin, but I want them to be profound and inspiring, as if they were written by the bard himself.
That's a surprisingly profound statement.
Yeah?
Face your fears and the rewards can be profound.